Classes in session. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session, guys. Guys, this has been a month in the making, actually longer than that. We planned it. I got sick. We planned it. This man's taking care of his grandfather. All of this has been going on, and every 5 seconds we're like, how about tonight? Oh, I can't. How about tonight? And today's it, guys. Welcome, Bryan Andrews, singer, activist. Bryan, give me a little bit of your background and who you are and how you got right here, and then I want us to jump into it because I love your energy. I love your heart.
Yeah, so I'm from a real small town of about 3,500 people, called Carrollton, Missouri. I still live in my hometown, and
Wow.
I grew up here. Had all my friends here and everything like that, and then I went to college for a couple years, and actually went for music performance, and I hated school, so I ended up dropping out because all my buddies were working on the road, welding and stuff at the time. So I was like, dang, I want to do something like that. And I was washing dishes for $8.50 an hour at the local bar in my college town. So I quit school and then went to welding school and then started working on the road. And I did that for about 4.5 years and taught myself how to write songs while I was on the road, somewhat in college, but really when I was on the road. And then started downloaded TikTok in like 2019 and started posting my music on there, and it kind of just blew up or whatever. And I ended up quitting my job back in 2021 or 2020, end of 2020, and um, have been doing it full time ever since. So just writing songs and stuff like that. But to get into like the political stuff, I really didn't talk about politics for a long time. I wouldn't touch
Right.
them, you know, until like really late 2024 is really when I started talking about stuff, because it just started getting, I saw the road we were going down, and I knew that it was going to be too loud to ignore, and I was feeling passionately about it in my personal life. So I started writing about it more, and I couldn't shut it off. So I
Hmm.
decided to just lean into it, and here we are now, and I'm trying to just make a difference, because history is going to be told, and it's going to be told through art, and I want to be a part of
That's
that.
right.
So
Absolutely, it will be. It's interesting when everybody talks about how artists and musicians and actors shouldn't have a voice and it's politics and just do your thing. And what those people fail to understand, or what they're trying to manipulate, is the absolute power of art, whether it be on the screen, whether it be in a painting, whether it be in a song. That's where it lies. When people talk about revolution, they talk about the songs, they talk about the art, they talk about the cultural shift. And that comes from individuals like you. And I have to say, when I first saw you, that's what, like, your
yeah.
music for me was secondary only because I saw you talking on TikTok. So your music ended up being secondary
Mhm.
to the passion and the authenticity of your voice. And I think as we go through different, incarnations of music and fads and trends and things like that, I think people right now are starved,
Yeah.
are desperate
Yeah.
for authenticity, and
I,
whatever direction that takes, I think that's what people are drawn to. Now, it's not without its weight. How do you so
yeah.
small town, 3,500 people.
Yeah.
For those who
Super
don't
rare.
know, about your music and about your stance, you are a left lean. Have you ever always been a left leaning guy, or did
Yeah.
you? Yeah, always.
Yeah. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I mean, growing up in a small town, you have just in circles and just in the small town itself, you have tendencies that you got to like address at some point in your life. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, racist things that you learn, pick up growing up, and stuff like that, that
Sure.
you have to be able to unlearn. And for me, like that was around 15, 16 years old is when I started realizing like, hey, some of this shit's not cool. And both my
Mhm.
parents are left leaning as well. So like my grandpa was a Democrat. My mom grew up in a union household. So, I mean, she has
Right.
been leaning left her whole life, and they're both music teachers. And my dad grew up on a farm with, Democrats for parents and grandparents and stuff like that, old school Democrats. And so they grew up being left leaning, and then getting into teaching and stuff like that. They saw people and students from all walks of life, kids that were just different, and some kids that were gay, or whatever. And so that kind of, for me, I was always around that way of thinking. So that's just the way that I think I grew up, and I just grew
Right.
up open minded, and grew up having to kind of recognize some of the things that I didn't agree with and be like, okay, that's kind of fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And like,
Right.
just, but I mean, in a small town, like, I think there's a lot more people that kind of think that way anyways. Because people are people, whether you're raised in
Yes,
the,
they are.
yeah, like when you're raised in the, um, ultra conservative MAGA household or not, you still are a person, and a child grows up, as a kid, you grow up with empathy in your heart for, it doesn't matter who.
That's right.
So, I mean, at some point, like, all that shit is learned throughout your life. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, it was easier for me because I had parents who were open minded and accepting of like everyone. So, I definitely picked up things from them, But yeah, I've been left leaning my whole life because, I mean, of that, and things that I hold personal to myself, just, and I
Right.
think the older I get, to be honest, the further left I get. Um,
Sure.
Not in a like radical sense, but just in a sense of like, you know, if there's things that I picked up, like I said, through growing up in a small town, that I was like, that was wrong of me to think, and
Right.
I've had to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
have those moments and conversations with myself, with my own morality, and be like, hey, that's wrong. Because the more I educated myself about it, the more I'm like, damn, dude, like, you know what I'm saying? And
That's it.
Conscious Lee says it all the time: education is elevation, and it truly is. I mean, because you're faced with things that, like, you already had a preconceived opinion about, and you're faced with actual research and facts that prove you otherwise. And you should be able, like, scientists, when they do when they practice the scientific method, they're trying to prove their hypothesis wrong,
Yeah, right, right.
right? So
Yeah, they're trying to find the holes, not
right.
supporting it. Yeah,
Yes, because I mean, it's all about what's like seeking truth, basically. So for me,
right.
that's what a big part of it was. But also, like I said, the shit just became too loud for me to ignore, especially going into the 2024 election. And I saw the writing on the wall, because I didn't like Donald Trump the first time when he ran, and I was pretty outspoken in my circles, when I was in college and stuff like that, about
Yeah,
that specific time period. Um, and I just saw it coming again, and I was like, I have to be able to speak about this, and I, for a long time, like I said, didn't want to touch it because I knew I was a small artist. I was an independent artist at the time, really, and just didn't speak about it because it's not, who what I wanted at the forefront. But it became too loud for me to ignore. And when I honestly started like thinking about all the people that I listened to growing up, artists that I listened to growing up, and artists that I loved, and artists that are considered some of the greatest artists of all time, they were all political. I mean,
that's
Cash,
right.
political. Woody Guthrie, political. Tupac, political. NWA, political. Rage Against the Machine, political. You know what I'm saying? And some those artists are
Absolutely.
some of the greatest artists of all time. So, and I was like, you just have a moment, or I just had a moment where it was like, who do I want to be as an artist? And I chose this path.
Yeah. I guess you
And
were as an independent artist, as a baby artist, right? You're like, if I make a hard line about this, I'm gonna cut off an audience. I'm gonna cut
yeah,
off a group of people. A group of people is gonna decide they're not gonna listen to my music anymore because I made this particular song or I had this particular post. And at a certain point, I guess you got to a place where you're like, well, okay,
yeah.
because the benefit, and forget the benefit. I feel like you just got to a point where it wasn't even about negotiating who was going to listen. It was just saying what you needed to say.
Yeah, it's no different than like when you said, I knew you through like your message and your voice, and like the things you were saying, and the music was a little bit secondary. That's on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
because the message to me is just as important as the music. And it's not just about the message or the music, it's about both of them and the movement behind it all.
Yep.
So, see, when I see the people who are like, I'm going to make a video about this today, actually, because I was thinking about it yesterday, but people are always saying, and I'm starting to see like 3 or 4 videos a week, right, of people talking shit or, saying they hate me or
Sure.
whatever. And they always
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
like, oh, guy only uses politics to push his music, or they say, well, he figured out he could pander to the left. Why the fuck would I make all these videos to people who already know what I'm talking about? That's the thing. I ain't pandering to the left. I'm talking directly to you. And the only reason you don't like it is because I'm finally holding up a mirror to you.
That's right.
So,
That's right. And that's what a lot of people, because a lot of people will say similar things to me, and what they're not understanding is not only am I trying to hold that mirror up, but I'm trying to do it in a way, cuz I know, just like you said at the beginning, there are a group of people that are horrible. I'm
mhm.
never reaching out. I'm never getting them over. I'm never having a good discussion. I think and I believe that the vast majority of people are good,
Yep.
lovely individuals that want the best for themselves, their families, their community, their country, the world. They want that. They want that. And I think their fear and their insecurity and their lack of education, I don't mean that in
Is
an like in a stupid kind of way. I mean that just we can't be educated about everything,
all
right?
right.
And people have weaponized that and really driven something home. And the only way we reach back out and make sure everybody is at least getting the information in their head to make their own choices is by keeping the door open, by
Yes.
keeping the conversation open. There's very few people that I wouldn't sit across from, you know, in order to have a debate, in order to have a discussion, because I
Yeah.
think that's where important conversation lie, and that's what music can do. Right?
Yes.
And that's what
Exactly.
you so powerfully can do.
Yeah, that's exactly right, especially in country music. I say that all the time. Now that I do this, and I'm in these spaces, it's my burden to bear to be able to be knowledgeable about the things going on in the world so I can talk about them and have real conversations and start real conversations in the circles that I'm in, like small towns or like country music. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
nobody else is gonna, right? So, like, for me, that's where, like, it's not just a burden, but it's a responsibility to be able to talk to these people about things that they otherwise may not learn about. And I tell this to my friends all the time. It's just like you said, like, in a perfect world, yeah, you should be able to have some kind of level of faith in your government that they at least have your best interest at heart. But the truth is, right now, they don't. So it is up to us, like, people shouldn't have to go work 60, 70 hours a week and then get on their phone at night when they're trying to spend time with their families and have to look up headlines and, like, read articles and educate themselves on research and studies and shit like that. They shouldn't have to do that. But at this moment, I think it is important that you take a little bit of time, even as on an individual level, to be like, hey, is what I'm consuming, or is what I'm reading and seeing true? And is it fact based, or is it fear based?
Yep.
So
I
for
think,
me,
first of all, incredibly important, but I also think it's funny, you say you don't know if it's our job to be doing that, and I'm thinking it's exactly our job. I'm
yeah.
thinking that
Well,
in a
as parents, and
democracy,
yeah.
as a person in a democracy, as a parent, as a citizen, that if you are not going to make an educated choice, an educated vote, an educated stand, you are not serving democracy. Democracy isn't something where you just go off and sign a ballot once every 4 years. Democracy is an active process. And if you're not going, if you're choosing, because I do think this is a reality in today's day and age, right? People can choose not to be educated. Those people I call stupid. That's a choice. You have
Yeah,
chosen to remain stupid. Lots of people are ignorant of stuff. We go out, we learn about it, we get better, we then can make a decision. If you're choosing to be ignorant, if you're choosing to remain stupid, that's on you.
yeah,
But everybody else, you do, I think, have an obligation because it's at your fingertips now.
yeah,
You don't have to go to university for 4 years. You don't have to output tons and tons of money. You don't have to go find an incredible academic library in order to have access to this stuff. You turn on your damn phone or you turn on your computer and you can have. Now it's a matter of choice.
yeah,
Now it's a matter of choice. How educated do you want to be? Because I do think it's our responsibility. And I
yeah,
think sometimes we got this flipped up, right? I think we look to the government way too much
yeah,
because I've stood in the room with a lot of those people, hon. And I'm telling you right now, these aren't the people where you're like, they've got all the answers.
yeah,
Number one, they don't. Number two, their education levels, as we are clear, are not to the level at which you want to, abdicate power to.
Yeah.
And they have their own personal interest at heart, as does everybody else. So, in this democracy, in any democracy, it has to be your job. And now, in the last, let's say, 15 years, you have access. Like
Yeah.
you went to university for a couple years, and then you dropped out, you finished, you did whatever you did because you're like, that's not for me. I don't like that form when it comes to my musical. Doesn't mean you stop getting educated.
Yeah. No. And I think that's the thing. Like, I think the more educated I got and the more like personal responsibility I bared to seeking truth and finding answers, the harder it became for me to keep my mouth shut and not write
That's
about
right.
it and things like that. So, um, I think I relate it back to like we use our ignorance as a shield to bury our heads in the sand and say, well,
That's
I
right.
didn't know that, right? Because we didn't want to know. You're choosing to willfully not know things. Like, I mean, I think it's, funny where we talk about like, I'll have personal conversations even with people in my personal life that disagree with me, and we'll talk about immigration and stuff. And I'll be like, with the whole Alex Preddy situation, they'll say something like, well, he didn't deserve to die, but, he showed up looking for a fight, basically. I don't know why he would have done that. It's like, okay, if I took you and that mindset and put you back in 1955 when Medgar Evers was shot or when Emmett Till was lynched, would you have just said, well, maybe Emmett Till shouldn't have went into the store that day?
That's
He
right.
had it coming. And, that's the
That's
thing,
right.
like the law's the law. You said these people say, comply and none of that stuff will happen. Right. So should Rosa Parks gave up her seat because it was the law that
That's
she
right.
should have, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes things are laws are meant to be broken. One and two, I think that, these things, if you just say, well, they should have just went to the ballot box or something like that. Well, they weren't even allowed to go to the ballot box until the late 1950s, early 1960s. You know what I'm saying? Like some people weren't. So that's why women, for example, weren't allowed to go.
Sure.
So were they supposed to just stay home and let the men finally decide? I can tell you, if that was the case, they wouldn't. They still today wouldn't be able to vote. You know how I know? Because it took until 2022 for the federal government to make lynching a federal crime. 4 years ago.
That's wild. That's
4
wild.
years ago.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm
And
saying. Like if you're
yeah,
leaving these things to the government, and you as a person don't bear any personal responsibility to bring change throughout your own communities and your own life, and then on a federal level, then you're choosing to bury your head in the sand and say, well, I just didn't know. Well, you should
yeah.
know. You
I
know what
think,
I'm saying? Like,
and I,
so.
I I think a lot of people, yeah, I think a lot of people want it to be easy. And I constantly play devil's advocate with myself, right? About the personal responsibility, and I constantly think about a person who's trying to take care of their family, struggling to meet ends meet, maybe working more than two jobs in order to make that happen. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody in their family had to go through some medical treatment in the United States, and heaven forbid, like what that looks like. And the idea of this person having to have the same sort of responsibility and accountability to then challenge when things
Right.
aren't going right. I understand that, and I understand people being fearful of what's next, being
Right.
fearful of the chaos that is about to ensue. But what I say then is that there's a bunch of people with a lot of privilege.
Yes,
And I don't
exactly.
care, lots
That
of privilege.
that is exactly the point. The being able to say like, well, I just didn't know about that is being able to say, well, the system was built for me. And people
That's
say
right.
all the time, like, well, in the grand scheme of things, I just want to be left alone, right? Well, yeah, of
Yeah,
course, everybody just wants to be left alone. But here's the thing: if your being left alone comes at if the price of your being left alone comes at the expense of someone else's depression or oppression, then you're
yeah,
right. You don't get to be left alone.
that's right.
So,
And I
I
and
mean,
I think we again, I've done so many deep dives, a lot of them into US history, and we talk about what's going on right now as though it's this major shift. And I think what's incredibly, the reason why I do that isn't, a lot of people think I'm just trying to bag on the United States. It's not really about that. It's
no,
really about understanding a pattern that's always existed,
yeah,
and a pattern that we need to fight to rectify,
yeah,
because prior to the last 15 or 20 years, gaining that information and gaining that knowledge was incredibly difficult. It
Yeah.
was contingent upon the rooms you sat in and the money you had and the schools you could go to or not go to and the places you could travel. So everything has shifted. It doesn't mean that we negate history. It means, okay, let's look at the US Constitution and what it actually does and when it's actually failed and what are the crevices or what are the cracks in the foundation of a document that was written in 1776, well,
Right.
1783. Like, that's wild to think. There aren't things we need to fix, not simply add ons, right?
Yes.
Somebody does a joke in one of their comedy specials about, Jefferson sitting around going, "What? You haven't fixed it? You haven't done
Yeah.
much of it? You just added some stuff on?
Yeah.
Y'all thought that was going to be good forever? That doesn't make any." But now we have such incredible divides between the left and the right, such insane divides that
Yeah.
they can no longer sit together and decide, how do we take care of, how do we make this okay, what does this look like in order for a better future, because they're trying to consistently jockey for power. It's,
Yeah.
Washington said, you're going to have political parties, you're going to mess up the whole system.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where like the the divide is real. When I think about that, like because there's a lot of people, like especially in my hometown, that literally won't talk to me anymore because I'm a crazy radical leftist, right? And I'm like, dude,
What?
I'm not that much different than you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that's where I'm like,
Yeah.
to me, it's so much more a class war than it is right versus left. It's not
Always
even
has
funny. I
been.
mean, and we're seeing it in broad daylight with like, like the Epstein files and everything like that. There's people from
Hmm.
both political parties incriminated in that stuff, and that's where
Of
like,
course.
I think that's almost where I think like leftists are a little bit closer, like the far left, and not the far left, but just the left in general terms of like who they support as candidates. They're a little bit closer than even liberals are and stuff like that, because we like as the liberal party still has faith that the democratic system or the Democratic Party in place is
That's
better
right.
than the alternative. And I would agree that, yeah, it's like better in the sense that like a chicken salad that is 2 days old is better than eating dog food, but it's
Still
still not,
dangerous.
yeah, it's still not very
Still
good. And
rolling the
yeah,
dice.
you're still going to get sick from it. Right. So, I mean, like I get that, but that's where I'm saying like this movement is much more important, I think, because the older we get, I think the more things like the Epstein stuff that we see, we have to move into supporting candidates that are for the people and that don't take billionaire money and that don't, take a whole lot of things from a whole lot of like corporate lobbyists and things like that. And but it's hard. It's
And
going to be
wouldn't that be a great defining characteristic? Now, it's very hard. I constantly try to figure out ways to legislate our way around the pitfalls that you're describing. And every time I
yeah,
try to figure out a way to legislate around it, all I can think about, but if the system of capitalism is such, and everybody thinks I'm a communist when I say this, but if the of capitalism is such whereby we are now in a place of capitalism, which I believe is kind of post capitalism because the competition, real low.
yeah, it's that's what I'm
You
saying.
have
It's not free
monoliths.
market. Yeah, it's not
Right,
free
not
market.
anymore.
Yeah,
Right, but you have this huge graph of billionaires acquiring all of this money and wielding all of this power by the things they can purchase. And I say something to the effect of, well, now politicians who are running can't take money from billionaire A, B, C, and go on down the list. Let me be real clear. They're going to take money from them somehow.
yeah,
They are. There's going to be an
loophole or something.
agreement that's going on because of the power that they wield, because of the capital we've allowed them to accumulate,
Yes,
and what that capital means to how you can change the system.
yeah,
Um, I read the other day that they're talking about AI and what AI is going to do, and somebody, heaven help me, it might even have been Musk saying something to the effect that you had an AI judge rather than the adversarial system in the courts. And I went, "Oh, okay. So on side A, you're taking away a person's ability to purchase and wield the economic structure, because if I can afford ten lawyers and you can afford two, I'm going to potentially win in that
Yeah.
battle. And if we just put everything in that sort of category and allowed somebody to look at the law, and it's not personality, it's not skin color, it's not class, none of those factors get to play in,
Right.
then you start to go, oh, that would be amazing. And then you start to remember who sets AI, who
Who's making
owns
the
AI,
system?
who
Yes.
can wield AI.
Yes. And
And
so
then
it'll
you're
just,
like, now what? Right?
yeah.
And I can't quite wrap my head around it. But if I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to get money out of the system, I don't see another way around it other than getting money out of the system
Yeah.
a-
Yeah.
as a
That's,
whole.
that's exactly my point is that like like I would consider myself a democratic socialist, but like people are so afraid of the word socialist that they
So
don't
afraid.
understand,
Yes.
right, that they don't understand that, like, dude, I'm trying to help you out too, like everything I talk about mostly is in root of like someone who represents a working class part of the system, right? So I mean, like, people of color mostly represent working class families. People in small towns mostly represent working class families. So when I think of socialist programs like universal health care, or we have them now, even police departments, fire departments, things like that. I think that those systems are to benefit us, not necessarily the billionaire class, and that's why I call myself a democratic socialist, right? So I mean, like,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying it's total redistribution of wealth. What I am saying though is that a billionaire shouldn't get to not pay any taxes, while people that I know work their ass off 80 hours a week should have to pay 25% of their yearly salary.
Right.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the world we live in America, because they are able to do those things. And what astounds me so much is that in the 80s we figured out, or we tried trickle down economics with Ronald Reagan. And
Sure.
at the time
People
we
still
had,
think that worked,
right, that's what I'm
Brian.
saying.
People still think that's the thing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We tried it and we said, "Hey, well, nobody's ever done this. Let's try it." We tried it, and then for 50
Disaster.
years it's been crippling us, and they still play on the fear of like, "Oh, dude, if you don't give billionaires all your money, then they won't be able to pay you anything."
And they're going to
So
leave. They're going to leave,
yes.
right? They're going to take I was just talking about this with my students about, where Amazon chooses to go in different towns. I'll tell you where they choose to go. Whatever municipality says you don't pay any property tax here. Come on, move
Bingo.
in. You employ 15,000 people. That's amazing. That's all the tax base we're going to need. And no matter if you only employ those 15,000 people, let's say for the next 10 years till everything's fully automated and you're
Yeah.
making all the money and we have no mechanism to tax you or to hold you economically accountable for the oppression that you're then going to be instilling, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
And
Bingo.
nobody's willing, and I think this is the biggest problem. Nobody has a 50-year plan, right?
Yeah. No.
Nobody can have a rational future plan because you're in government for 4 years at a
Yeah.
time. If
Yeah.
you don't get it done in 4 years or get something done in 4 years and impress somebody in 4 years, you're out. Now, whose fault is that? That is us.
Yeah.
That is
For
us
sure.
to think you can fix the environment, you can fix human rights, you can fix immigration law, you can fix labor law. You can't do any of that in 4 years. The only thing I can do in 4 years is take away a little bit of taxes. So you have
Yeah.
maybe an extra, like Canadian government right now is saving families, let's say on the top end, $1,000 a year. Great. What is that costing us when it comes to the social programs? And forget the social programs. If you're telling me you can give me back that $1,000 and our roads are horrible, our infrastructure is horrible, our healthcare is deteriorating, all of these things, forget it. Put it into anything that's going to build. Say I was going to give you the $1,000 back, but if I give you the $1,000 that back, then I lose 200 billion. Do you want me to do something with 200 billion, or do you want your money back?
Right.
But we have to trust that not just government A is going to do it, but they're going to follow through
Yeah.
for the next.
Right. And like that's the thing, like there is so much distrust, like especially in small towns, I see it all the time. People will come up to me and they'll be like, "Dude, you just want to give all your money to the government and stuff, and the government hates you, blah blah blah." And to their defense, like there is some level of discernment that I have for the federal government having my best interests at heart as well. It's just that I do think that Democrats have more, um, or at least the left side of the aisle has more of working families' best interests than Republicans do. I think Republicans are really good at selling you on the idea that they do, but they actually don't give a
Right.
shit. So
Mhm.
like that's where like Donald Trump is the greatest con man to ever live.
Very good at it.
And like the way that he was able, as a billionaire who's never stepped foot in a working class person's shoes, the way he was able to con them into thinking that he was representing them should be studied
Outstanding.
for years. Yes. And like
100%.
my thing is like we have to be able to collectively see that for what it is. And until we get people on the left side of the aisle who are willing to say stand up and not just give them a bureaucratic answer to why Donald Trump is a bad person, but say fuck you, you're a piece of shit, and I know you're lying, then we're going to be lost.
Mhm.
So
I think I remember the moment, and I know Dave Chappelle speaks about this in his stand-up, and, when he was running against Hillary, and he stood up against Hillary, and she's talking about his taxes, and he doesn't pay taxes, and he says something to the effect of, "You wanna change the tax law? Your husband was in power for 8 years." He did the opposite, actually, and this is 100% true. A lot of people blame the 2008 housing crisis on the deregulation of the Bill Clinton administration.
yeah,
He allowed all of this money to flow back, and he allowed all of these loopholes for taxes again and again and again. You want to point out that I didn't pay my taxes? Yeah, I was playing by the game you set.
yeah,
Now, here's the funny part. He called her out. He was right. It was
yeah,
true. But everybody inferred the second part that voted for him. Everybody inferred in their heads, they made a leap that meant he was going to fix it.
yeah,
Let me be
exactly,
real clear. The man never said he was going to fix it.
yeah,
He just said, "This is bullcrap. She
yeah,
is a hypocrite." All of which was true.
yeah.
I think his base just assumed
Yeah, that
he
he was going to change it, and then he
was
never
gonna
did.
change it.
Obviously, because why would he if he's the one benefiting from it?
Yeah, absolutely. He'd
And
have
so
no impetus to do that whatsoever.
right, and that's where like I said, for me, it's much more about like holding up a mirror to these people and saying, "Look, dude, this is what's happening," you know,
Yeah.
and like you can either get on board with it or not. But here's the facts: these people hate you, and this is what I'm saying. You've got to start supporting candidates who finally give a fuck about working class families, and it's hard to do because I mean, people, especially with the MAGA movement. That's why I say about Donald Trump. I think he's been detrimental because the mindset and mentality that he's given to people is, or at least brought out in people, is very, very hard to unravel. I think you're starting to see MAGA kind of crumble, but that whole MAGA movement was, I mean, airtight for a long time, or at least
Mhm.
in political years, a long time, right? So it's going to be hard to kind of break those walls down. And I think that Donald Trump himself is um, doing a good job of breaking down those walls at the moment, with like I said, the Epstein thing. And then like, so, he just does shit that like, obviously a working class person who has any level of education can be like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like suing the IRS for $10 billion. That's taxpayer money. Like going straight to
Sure.
him, and everybody's kind of starting to see that and be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So I think
You
that
know what I often Yeah, go ahead,
no, go
sorry.
ahead.
I often think of thank God, these people that are just like a Donald Trump guy that, by the way, is just plating out a playbook that's already been described and built over the course of the years anyways. I constantly think about, thank God he's not actually smart.
Right.
Thank God he's just really good at what he does, which is getting to where he was. Because and, you know, Donald Trump and his boys probably not watching our podcast. However, so hopefully they don't take this as an idea.
Yeah.
You know what would have changed everything forever?
What's up?
Had he taken that Epstein list and blanket arrested people.
Yeah.
I mean, from both sides of the aisle. I mean, go right that Lutnick standing right next to you, put him in handcuffs. Go
Yeah.
on TV, and say, that's who I am. Because if you think for a second Donald Trump cares about any of these people, he doesn't.
No. Yeah,
The
doesn't even
the
care.
only offset is what they know about him. But to be honest, I don't think it would matter. I don't
No.
I unless it's somebody has him on video, unless, it would have to be insurmountable for him to get on TV and said, I saw how many times he was in it. He's gone, he's arrested, and I'm instructing and anybody who makes a mistake when it comes to this, Kash Patel getting up there saying it was nothing. If Donald Trump had just taken a different line, he could have solidified himself.
Yep.
Solidified, because then I really do worry about a third term.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if
Oh
he
yeah.
actually created the mechanism to arrest, fine, the Clintons, but also Letnick and also, Gates and
Actually
also
drain the
Musk? I don't
swamp.
care. All of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody in handcuffs, going down, being deposed, put it all on TV, make it. That's the sign of a genius. Now, thank God he's not that smart. Although
I
I'd
think
like
it's
everyone to be
probably
arrested.
right. I think it's probably a little bit that he's not that smart, but I also think it's probably that he's incriminated in him as well. So he's afraid, if
But
I
just
start
think
going
of how
after
many
these
things
people.
yeah, think about what he's admitted to already.
Right. And that's what I
Like,
mean. Like
think about what
that
what
that's
he's
what I mean.
already overcome.
Yeah, that's why I think you're seeing like the Epstein thing isn't as big to a lot of people as it seems because especially in small towns because they already knew he was a morally corrupt person.
And they were good with it.
Yep.
Yep,
And that's what I'm saying. Like they're like even to the extent that they think it's all they either one knew he was morally corrupt and they're okay with it, or two, they think it's all a weaponization against Donald Trump and it's nothing more than that. Right.
sure.
So like the Eugene Carroll stuff, like when he got or found guilty by a jury, of
Right,
sexual assault and things like that, they said, well, that was just a targeted attack. That's a weaponization of the justice system, right? And
right.
so, like,
Yeah, it's absolute crap. It doesn't.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. He's on tape. Like, they're like, "Oh, well, that's fine." Boys being boys. I mean, you would think there's certain things that happen along the way and you go, "Oh, he's done now." No, no, no. His popularity gains.
yeah. I mean,
It magnifies.
the point in which I was 18 or 19 years old, I think 19. But anyways, the like I honestly didn't think that Donald Trump was like a bad idea until the Access Hollywood came out when I was in 2015, and I was like that
On the
guy.
bus thing, that one?
Yes, I was like this motherfucker cannot be president. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like this is
yeah.
fucked up. But nobody else thought that, and I was like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, are we taking this fucking serious anymore or not? And then obviously here we are now. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
how it wasn't the last straw, how any of these things weren't the last straw for people is beyond me. But that's why I said, like I think that it was my responsibility to start being loud about it because that's what I think. Like maybe we just weren't. Maybe we didn't feel or we didn't make racists feel bad enough about themselves. And that's the point I'm at right now because I fucking can't stand them, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. I mean, I think we've been too tolerable of people saying ignorantly racist things, even. Like people that don't know they're being racist when they say something, or people that don't know they're being sexist when they say something, because I've done that
Right.
too. But you have to have, when I started changing, when I had people surrounded by me in my life that would say, hey, dude, that's fucking racist.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
that's you shouldn't fucking say that. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't happen overnight, but I'll be like, shit, I didn't know that was racist, but that you're right, that was fucking racist of me to say, right? And so
I
like, or homophobic or whatever it is, like
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like that,
whatever.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like, but these people aren't surrounded by people who would do that. So like that's where I'm saying like maybe it was on me that I live in these spaces with these people and I think this way and I didn't say shit for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So maybe now it's my or not, maybe it is my
Yeah,
responsibility to be able to
sure.
sit in these spaces and be like, hey, that's fucked up and here's why. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should want to be a better person. Does it make you fucking? That's why I want to say to these people: does it make you fucking feel better to think that you're better than an immigrant? Because
It does.
truthfully, that's how you feel. Like, at this
It
moment,
does.
that is
It
how you
makes
feel. It makes you feel like you were better
yes.
because you were lucky enough to be born here.
Yes. Yes, it does. And I
Yes.
think what the you talk about holding up a mirror. And I think what this administration has done, and has proven, and even when it comes down to the disgustingness of, and by the way, the whole, he's not the only one. He wasn't the
No.
first. This is a historical reality of abuse and ownership, and it's not just in this era. It's not
Yes.
just now. But I think holding up this mirror that you're talking about, for some people, when the mirror is held up, I think they want to feel what he's done is he's instead of belittling and making them feel smaller for those, he has bigged them up to say, well, that's how I think, and I'm a
Yep.
billionaire. So
Yep.
you can't be wrong. That when we talk about these files and what we're ignoring and how nobody's really talking about it, nobody protected these women, nobody listened to these women. I like to point out, as disgusting as hard as this to listen to, what goes on in everybody's personal families.
Yeah.
How many uncles have been excommunicated from the family, but nobody took them to court? Nobody
Mhm.
put them on trial. How many times have we swept it under the rug because it's personal family business? And we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to, nobody's going to admit to that. Nobody's going to the police about that. We're going to pretend like it never happened. And then we're all pissed because I do think it's projection that this is going on at an elite level. Meanwhile, people have been protecting abusers forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
in their house, in their community.
Yeah. It's not new. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
these, like, and that's the thing. Like, that's why, like, I always say, like, I bear some responsibility to not speaking up sooner, because I mean, I'm young, but at some point in my life, there was a time where I was like, I'm not going to touch that.
right,
I'd see it and I know it's fucked up, but I'd be like, ain't my fucking business. Well, the
right,
truth
right,
is,
right.
it is our fucking business. And, like, that's the thing. Like, people think I hate America when I'm starting to speak out about all these things, but I don't. Like, everything I say is en route for my love of the idea of America, right? So, I mean,
Hmm.
like, that's the thing. When this country was founded, America made a fucking deal with us. And I think me speaking out of on the injustices and the abuse and the things that we see is me holding America accountable to the deal she fucking made and making sure she holds up her end of the fucking bargain. So,
Well, in the end of that bargain, and this is what people, and I don't know if protest is the way to do it, to be perfectly honest. But like physically protesting, because
mhm,
I feel as though in this particular context, it's elevating tensions in order to elicit a National Guard or a
response. Yeah.
military response. To be honest, however, I think that you know, people need to understand that it has to be their job, that when we say the deal that we've made, and I know I'm Canadian, but the same deal, the power that we've given has been given with consent under certain conditions. And if those conditions aren't being met, then it is our job, our responsibility, our constitutional right to hold them accountable, to hold it up to the light,
Yes.
and to fight for that change. And if you're not doing it, if you're not doing your part, whatever that part is, and by the way, I think everybody's part gets to look different. I don't
Yes.
think that everybody needs to be writing country music. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to hear me sing. Not everybody needs to be a teacher. Not everybody needs to be a politician. Not everybody needs to be up on the protest line. You have power in your world somehow. How are you wielding it? And
Yes.
and the more people take that on, the more you realize that the beauty of a country is the people demanding justice for people,
Yes.
not being scared into demonizing a group to benefit the rest. That's
Exactly.
fascism,
That exactly.
right?
That's the point I make to, like, even my friends, is that, like, look, I can have conversations with you in these spaces and we can come to, like, disagreements that we or agree to disagree on certain things without me conceding that human rights are a non fucking negotiable.
That's right.
you know?
Right.
And like that's the thing. Like I can have those conversations with you and you can say, "Oh, well you hate me just because I disagree with you." No, I don't hate you because I disagree with you. We're not disagreeing. I think morally you have an internal problem with you individually. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If you view certain human beings as being less than because they were not born here, or that they don't deserve due process, which is a constitutional right, or for anyone on this land, or that they don't deserve to not have their door kicked in without a judicial warrant. Those are the things that are non-negotiable to me,
Mhm.
that where in these conversations it's not me disagreeing with you and it's not me begging you to see it from my side. It's me telling you that if you morally don't believe in that, then it's your problem, not mine.
Mhm.
So
I
I
think
think.
there's also a yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good.
I think there's also a problem with the idea that my life's hard, my life sucks right now,
Yeah.
can
Sure.
be a very significant trigger
Yes.
for people with significant problems. And
If
if
it's hard
I
for
can
me, it's
somehow
hard for
say
me. Yeah.
it's the guy that snuck in to the country next door,
Yeah.
he's the guy, I'm gonna fix that for you. I got your back, and I'll bring your jobs back, and I'll uplift everybody. Just listen to me. It's not a bad person that necessarily believes that. Historically, we have always been the most fearful, the most damaging, the most aggressive towards new people in our worlds, in
Yes.
our hemisphere, in our community. We're always afraid of the things we don't know.
Yeah.
Always. So because I'm constantly trying to figure out what do we do? What do we do next, right? How do we do this next? Not necessarily who did the bad thing. We can't spend so much time there pointing fingers saying you're horrible. Forget it. What do we do next? And the next to me is always about human beings coming together and getting to know each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Always. That is always what it's about.
Yep.
So instead of and I again, I protests have its own issue for me. I mean, I study the Vietnam War. Protest didn't end that friggin' war. It's not what
Right.
happened. Everything's the height of protest movements. It did nothing. What stopped that war was y'all were about to lose in 1975. Nixon says, "We're out.
Yeah.
We're out of the war." Right? So we have to develop programs. The Democrats want to do something, in my opinion, start start educating,
Yeah.
start talking about who came from what country, talk about asylum laws, talk about what due process looks like, talk about how easy that is, and talk about it so people can friggin' understand you.
Right. And
Don't
so
talk about it.
no,
Go
you're
ahead.
you're exactly right. I say I'm going to make a video about this too, but like I say all the time, I know things like systemic racism exists because for so much of my life as a white male, I didn't. Right? So
Mm,
like throughout my life, I didn't even know never in school once learned about who Emmett Till was. I did not know Emmett Till existed until 2022 when they finally passed that law and it started getting on
right.
social media. I didn't know until I started really talking to like getting outside of my hometown when I went to college and had friends from city areas and urban areas that were people of color. I didn't know that people got pulled over in rich neighborhoods for driving around
Driving.
them at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that people of color were harassed and asked for their papers and their IDs for speaking Spanish in public while being brown. But
Right.
those experiences do exist, and the reason that I didn't know them is because the system was built for me, right?
Sure.
And so that's why I'm saying like I know it exists because I didn't know about it, right? But think about that as well. It took me till I was 20 years old to figure out that to learn about one of the most famous, horrible, disgusting, vile lynchings of all time in American history took place. That is
Mhm.
insane. That is insane that it took me that long to be educated about that specific person.
Mhm.
In school systems, we are failing students because we continuously try to hide history and you're seeing it now. This is why another reason I can't stand Donald Trump. We are continuously trying to hide history from people to be educated about it, so that way they can repeat it.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Everybody's like,
absolutely.
"Oh, it's bad if you repeat history." It is, but the people in power want to be able to repeat history.
Sure, well, it's
Donald Trump
power.
is
It is
going
about
through
keeping their power.
exactly. Donald Trump is so he can play on your fears. If he
Yeah,
can convince you that illegal immigrants are trash and animals and coming for your way of life, you know what they said about black people in the 1960s? They're
exact
trash and
same thing.
animals and coming for your way of
Sure.
life.
Yes. It's
So that
always Yeah, it's always the minority that has all of this significant power. It's,
yes.
wild that 12% of the population, if we're talking about African Americans, has such incredible power over your country. But what I will tell you about what I will say is this: we don't need to educate the minorities. They know.
Oh, they know. That's what I'm saying.
They
Yes,
know.
you're exactly right. That's why I always say they're like, "Oh, he's pandering to the left." No, dog. I'm talking directly to motherfucking you. I'm
You
speaking
don't
to
know.
you. Yes. Do you think I need to? Do you think I need to come out here and speak to women about the importance of having, or of women being able to have access to healthcare? Fuck no. They already know because they don't have access
That's
to it. I'm talking to you because you don't know because the system was built for you and you've never had to experience it.
Absolutely. And I think that the more we that's the so when we are talking, it's not about allying people who already believe in me and what I have to say. It's about getting them, it's about seeping it in, right? It's
Yes.
about getting it into people's heads, so at the very least they go home and they go, that one thing that Joanna said really pissed me off. And all of a
Yep.
sudden they're on their phone
Googling it.
looking it up.
Yep.
That's it. I
Yep.
just need one thing to squeeze into your head.
Oh,
Even if that one thing you're looking to prove me wrong, go ahead, try to prove me wrong.
yes.
I've been wrong lots. I'll be wrong lots in the future. Go ahead, try to prove me wrong, and then let's have a conversation about it. Because in the
Yes.
process, it's going to squeeze in your head, and you're not even going to know what got in there.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you're going to look at things in a little bit of a different way.
Yes.
So when we
Exactly.
say the change, it has to be educational. You
Yes.
want to pour money into anything? Education.
Yes. And that's
So
why,
when they
like
say,
that.
oh, all these institutions are left leaning, there's a reason.
Yes.
They got smarter.
Yes.
They could see a system for what it is. They're
Yep.
not looking to accrue and negotiate power.
Yep.
They're looking at the facts, not your
Yes.
feelings, which I think is an hilarious spin
Yeah.
on what, an ultra religious movement now, which is
Yes.
hysterical. Poor real Christians out there with him like
Uh,
rocking this
we hate it.
magna. Like some
Just so
not
you know.
beautiful Christian people now have to be associated with this guy who can't even read half the time.
I've pretty much
Um,
gotten to the point as a Christian where I stopped calling myself a Christian. I say I follow
Oh,
Christ.
and you know what? It's again, I'd like religion in general. Obviously, is when it's a personal faith, it's beautiful. When
Yes.
it's a weaponized policy, I don't care what religion it is, it should be banned. That's it. You I have friends that are the most beautiful religious people and they talk to me about their faith and I think it's gorgeous. I don't share it, but I'm like, what a lovely thing. What a lovely thing to have in your heart. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what they're not doing. They're not walking around trying to kick out immigrants. They're not using Bible verses in order to oppress and undervalue and take things away.
Yes.
They're not doing that with any religion, right? Like whatever religion we could possibly be talking about.
You know what the
But
argument is to that in small towns? And
mm,
I can prove it in fucking 30 seconds. They'll say, or
right.
disprove it in 30 seconds. They'll say, well, this country was founded on Christian
Oh,
values. False.
oh,
The fucking Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America did not have under God in it until 1954. When the and same thing within God we
part of the
trust
Cold
on
War.
our currency.
Yes,
Yes. It did not happen until 1954 because they were trying to combat communism. And the whole
that's right.
idea behind it was communist countries were godless nations. So we didn't
That's
want
right.
to become that. And we were so scared of becoming communists that we put God in everything because Christian nationalists told us that, hey, if you become a Christian, then we'll never be communists.
That's right. And
And that's
and it
what it
and
is.
it really is relying on something when you can't argue, and again, I'm not coming at anybody's faith, but when you can't argue fact, you use supranational ideas and belief systems that are about scaring you when you're not even on this planet anymore, in order to wield and manipulate your current mechanism for the way in which you're going to treat people or the way in
Yeah,
which your country is going to be run. If your primary goal is to uphold human rights, I don't know a single religion in its authenticity, in its roots, that isn't the first goal.
exactly.
And as soon as it's
Exactly.
not, I'm calling that religion a cult. I'm saying that religion should be
It's
barred.
corrupt.
Get rid of. If
Yes,
your
that's what I'm
first
saying.
goal isn't to make people feel like they're protected and they're supported, then that's not your job. That's not what you're
Exactly.
doing.
True Christianity, if Christianity has been hijacked by these Christian nationalists, and it will be the destruction of the Christian religion. Because that's what I'm saying. Christianity throughout
Well, they're
history
going
has
to
been
use it.
corrupted by people who are ultra nationalist people. So, like
Mhm.
when people say you know, well, Christianity is just like my personal relationship or whatever. I agree with you. I think that's great. It's the same way for me. But
Beautiful.
here's the thing:
Have at
Jesus,
it.
our own Christian, or like when I talk to Christians, our own God and our own Savior, Jesus Christ, tells us to feed the poor, heal the sick, and treat the immigrant as ourselves. Correct?
That's right.
And
Do
they're
that
like, yeah,
first.
in
That do
James
that.
2, yeah, James 2 chapter 14 through 16 says faith without works is dead. So if we
That's
as
it.
a Christian religion aren't doing anything to advocate to help feed the poor, heal the sick, and stand up against injustice, then we are dead. Our faith is dead. And that's another thing. People will be like, well, you don't follow the whole Bible, you just cherry pick it. Yeah, here's the thing. I cherry pick it for my side because I understand that the Bible's probably not 100% correct. One, it was
Of
written by
course.
man. Two, the like even the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written 50 to 150 years after Christ was alive, correct? So
Sure.
that's where I'm saying if I'm not the one who bases my entire faith off of a book. You are. And you want me to tell you something? If your entire faith only comes from a book that can be easily disproven, like people living to be 600 years old, or that the earth is only 6,000 years old, if your religion and your faith is only contingent on that book that can be easily disproven, then your faith isn't strong at
You
all.
got a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah. you, got, you have some trouble. You
bingo.
have some actual trouble. And the funny part is, I don't get into, because I know a lot of people will say the Bible said this, the Bible, and I'll very clearly say the any religious text, when it did have a place in society, is when we didn't have a way of living and an ethic and a morality that was outside of that, because we didn't have the education and the awareness to do so. We lived in the land of superstition. As soon as we moved on from that, the idea of a secular democracy, because I don't think a democracy exists if you have a religion top down exerting force on it, and we've had that in this country, in Canada, in the United States, for a very long time. If you can't live and you can't come up with what's moral and ethical for today, and your only reason for judging anything is what happens after you die, you're not moral and you're not ethical.
Bingo.
You're
Bingo.
scared
One,
and you're
yes, you're
being
fearful.
manipulated.
Yes.
That's it.
And if
And that
you
is a
have
waste.
fear,
That is
someone can take advantage of it. That's where I'm
that's
saying
right.
that's what
And
made
now
me speak out. Because dude, like when I saw that my own fear of not speaking out was condoning and complicit in where the direction of which we saw the country going, I said, fuck that, no more. I cannot be
that's right.
fearful of not speaking and not uh, at least educating to my best ability in my own spaces for fear of losing the things that I have gotten, material things that I have gotten.
That's
None of them are as important as being able to live in a society and a land that is free for everyone in it.
Honey, on that note, I'm gonna say thank you so much for finally sitting down with me. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that we finally could make this work. I want you back
Same.
anytime you want to come back. Can you tell everybody where to find you, what you have coming up next, all of those great
Yeah.
things before we get off here?
Yeah, so on March 6th, we're releasing a new single called "Are We Great Yet?" It's bangs. It's gonna be so good.
Love it
And then,
already.
yeah, yeah, and then launching a merch store and everything soon. But you can find me anywhere on socials at Bryan Andrews Music, and then look me up on anywhere you stream music at Bryan Andrews. And it's a little bit of country, a little bit of rock, and a whole lot of protests coming up. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being authentically powerful. And thank you so much for taking the power that you have and the awesome talent that you have and using it as a force in this world.
yeah,
Thank you so
thanks,
much, sir.
thanks for having
And
me.
for everybody listening, thank you for hanging out with us for this hour. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Dismissed.